All right, welcome in everybody. This is the Box Score Network. I am Ben Parker, joined by Austin Freed and Parker, and we are loaded. It is panic time for some of you. It's decision time for everybody. It is fantasy football. It starts now. It's time to get those final decisions in. And we're going to go through not everybody in the league, but we're going to go through a lot of rookies, running backs. We'll hit some veterans. We'll hit some generic rooms. We'll hit some offenses. We'll even hit a game. All right. So we're going to cover a lot. We're going to try to move through it pretty fast, but where we need to settle down and sit in for a second, we will. Real quick introduction, Austin Freed. Austin, give everybody just a little bit of advice, though,
Recording
generically
stopped.
about their fantasy stuff.
Yeah, so for all you new people to fantasy football, I think one piece of advice would be try not to tilt too much too early. It's very easy to do, but keeping a level head is always really important and will help you out in the long run. So try not to tilt too much, especially in week 1, week 2.
It's hard not to sometimes, right? But fight that urge. Fight that. Parker, real quick before we dive into the specifics here, man, lay it on us. Just a good generic piece of advice for everybody.
Yeah, like two things. One, projections mean absolutely nothing. A lot of people that get into fantasy early are just like, "Oh, I'm projected to lose. I'm gonna lose this." Like they don't really mean that much. They are generally in the ballpark, but it's never definite. So don't let the projections really sway how you feel about your matchup. Number two would be like trust your gut with your draft. Like if you drafted a guy in the fifth round, start him. Don't question like, oh, should I take this guy in the eighth round because I've seen some hype on Instagram about his preseason workout? Like, don't do that. Take the guy that you took with the draft pick you wasted or the draft pick you spent, and stick to your gut. Trust your draft.
Totally agree on all of that. And I'll speak real quick to that first point, Parker, because and hello to Austin's cat, everybody. Because I've been there, man. I've seen the projection. I'm like, dang it, I'm going to get crushed this week, and I win. Or I think, man, I've got the team this week. I have no problem winning, and then I lose. So I've got to look at the projection, right? I can't not look at it. But as soon as I look at it, I throw it away. It's like, all right, what can I do to fit my roster this week? It's set. Now I'll just move on. So that's good advice. All right. Denver, we're going to start there with the Broncos running back room tonight. Of course, there's a rookie floating around named R.J. Harvey, who everybody likes, and we feel like very confidently that Peyton likes him too. But it's still week 1, so Austin, we got J.K. Dobbins in the mix here. There's even McLaughlin in the mix, maybe getting some touches at some point too. So walk us through this Denver Broncos receiving running back room for week 1 specifically.
Yeah, well, I think it's always important to look at matchups as well, and they're playing the Tennessee Titans. So I think this is going to be a really nice, they're not jumping in the deep end here. They are walking into nice shallow water, and I think this is going to be a game that Denver's going to win pretty handedly. They're going to be running the ball, and I think RG Harvey is a start because he's going to get touches, if not early and often, definitely late when they're trying to control the clock. And this is a really good way to introduce him. So I think RJ Harvey is a start for me for that reason. When you talk about the other running back there, it's J.K. Dobbins, who I think is also potentially a start simply because I think they're going to be running the football a ton, I think. So I think both of them are startable. Neither is, someone I'm like, chomping at the bit to start, but they're both startable. I think you can get away with them as, an RB2 if you went, late round RBs, or definitely a flex. I would feel comfortable with either of them as a flex.
Parker, before I get your opinion, just a reminder to everybody what we advise on week 1 may be very different week 9. Okay, this constantly changes, so don't grab it and stick with it. Stay tuned with us on every week. Austin, sorry, Parker.
Yeah, I mean these guys are both going to be a start for me too. I mean Sean Payton. This is the only thing that makes me think like this is it puts him on the start side. Sean Payton, when they drafted Alvin Kamara to the Saints in 2017 from Tennessee, like he came in and was immediately effective, even though they had Mark Ingram, who was already like a solidified back in the league. Like he was already doing his job. They brought in Kamara, and boom, they were both fantasy productive. Now, do I think these that was back whenever Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara were scoring like 17 points each a game. Do I think that's the situation here? No. But I do think there's plenty room in Sean Payton's offense for these guys to both get 9, 10. Maybe one of them touches 13, one of them touches 8 points. But in that ballpark, I think there's plenty of room for them to combine for about 20 fantasy points together.
All right, I like it. We're going to stay with that game for just a second before we move back into running back rooms. Alec Omenor, rookie for Tennessee here. It's not an uncrowded receiver room because you also have Calvin Ridley there. Tyler Lockett's there for what it's worth. Van Jefferson is there, who tends to get a lot of snaps, not always great production. And then you've got the rookie rookie quarterback going here. So Parker, I'll let you weigh in first here on Alec Omenor.
Yeah, I mean, my big thing's the rookie quarterback. They're playing against one of the top three defenses in the league in the Denver Broncos as of last year. I mean, they came out and shocked the world with their defense. They just paid Pat Surtain, I think, at the end of the season or off season, a bunch of money. He's going to keep doing his job and keep Calvin Ridley locked up. So I do think he'll be open occasionally, but I'm just worried that Cam Ward might not be able to keep his head on straight in the pocket, knowing that Denver's coming pretty consistently.
Austin.
I think this is an interesting one because obviously Pat Sertan is a beast, but I think Pat Sertan's going to be running around following Calvin Ridley, who is the clear wide receiver one and the only guy I'm worried about on this Titans offense, like truly beating me. Like I think Calvin Ridley, if I'm Sean Payton, I'm like, hey, let's just don't let him beat me. So I think Iomanor is going to have a shot going up against the worst of the DBs. Now, the problem is the worst of the DBs in Denver are still really good. So I don't feel comfortable enough to start him if I have better options. But like, if you're in a bind, man, because you got to look at this, it's the same coin, just the opposite side. Titans are going to be having to throw the ball a lot, I think. They're going to be down. I think Cam Ward's going to get a chance to sling it, although you never know. They could be trying to ease him in as well. But I'm ultimately leaning towards a sit. But if you're in a bind, I don't hate it.
Yeah, I'm leaning toward a sit as well, mainly because of crowded receiver room, rookie quarterback. So I would shy away from it unless I had, no better options. What you might catch, I expect here out of Ayumanor is a touchdown, right? I'm not looking at high volume catches. I wouldn't think week one, but maybe you catch a touchdown here in week one, late in the game, and then as the season progresses, this is definitely on the watch list, right? Because I
Mm-hmm.
like too. I think eventually he works his way into a rhythm. I might back away from it week one. All right, let's switch over to another running back room here, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who picked up Caleb Johnson out of Iowa. And I do like him here, but he's not the only running back playing for Pittsburgh. Jalen Warren is the main guy there that would pick up some other snaps, but he's not the only guy. So, Austin, back to you first here. What's your feeling on Caleb Johnson and the entire running back room for the Steelers?
I think this one's a sit for me, um, for both of them, Caleb Johnson and Warren. And it's just because I don't know what's going to happen yet, and I don't feel comfortable enough to make the risk. Now, there's a potential that you have to start. Like, I know a lot of people, I think Parker did this in one of his leagues that we're in together. You drafted both of these guys, and you might have to start one or the other. If I had to start one or the other, I would probably go Jalen Warren just because we've seen him in the NFL have success. We know he can catch passes pretty well. And we know he's a good third down block. He likes to, they might keep him in the game because he's a really good pass blocker. So I think he's got the third down role most likely. And if I had to go one, I would go Warren, but I don't feel good about it enough to start him unless I kind of have to.
Parker.
Yeah, no, I think Caleb Johnson for me is a sit as a rookie. Uh, he's not going to get the backfield right away. Jalen Warren, number two, just got paid. Like they just signed him to a 2-year extension. They got Najee out of the room, so he's the only familiar back that's there, from last year, in the running back room. That's really a potential starter. And number two is like, how many times can Aaron Rodgers really drop back at this point? Like, can Aaron Rodgers drop back 35 times, 40 times a game? Absolutely not. I don't believe so. And Pittsburgh's always been a little run, like ever since Big Ben left, they're run heavy. So I think Jalen Warren's a start, knowing that he just got paid. He's projected like, I mean, I know I just said projections aren't anything, but he's projected 3 times as many points as Caleb Johnson, which makes me think that he's probably going to take the majority of the carries. So he's a start for me. Caleb Johnson's a sit.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I would sit Caleb Johnson. I figure by midseason, I'm pretty big on Johnson here for the Steelers. I figure by midseason, Caleb Johnson may be on fire just in terms of general production. but I'm not ready to do that yet. NFL coaches, football coaches in general, man, they are conservative and they like to go to start the season. They like to force those rules, or in college, those freshmen to really earn that role. They do not like opening the season with guys they haven't gone to battle with, so to speak. Parker.
Real quick, I just want to put this out there for you, Ben. I'm creating a watch list for you. That's two guys you've already put on the watch list. So
Yeah.
if there's somebody you want me to throw down there, if you're like, hey, this guy's on the watch list, I'm keeping track of that for you because I would like for us to progress through the season and keep up with that. So if you want to add somebody to it,
And I
just
love it
let me know.
because this stuff changes. The tricky part is when will it change, right? For some of these guys, it's week 5, but for
Mm-hmm.
others, it's week 13. Too late to help anybody in fantasy, right? So it always is the tricky part. That's what we're here for, man. We're here to walk everybody through this ourselves too. So, anything more thoughts here on the Steelers or running back room before we kick out? All right, let's move on to another running back room. This is less about a rookie, really, and more just about is there any production coming out of this? It's the Washington Commanders. So obviously, they made a bit of a trade a couple of weeks ago and let go of one of the running backs, Brian Robertson. They still have some good. It's a mixed room, and then you got the quarterback thing there. Parker, I'll go to you first. So Austin Eckler's involved here, Jeremy McNichols, Chris Rodriguez, and then the rookie Krosky Merritt. So what's your feeling here on just this whole room?
Just sit the room, in my opinion. They just paid Terry McLaurin. Jaden Daniels obviously is going to be a little more comfortable this year now that he's got a whole year under his belt and a whole offseason under his belt with these guys. Number two, Jaden Daniels uses his legs, so he does produce a lot of run game for this offense. That being said, they might not have to hand the ball off as much. Knowing that Jaden's picking up first downs here and there with his legs, I would sit the room at least until week 3 and kind of figure out what Washington's doing in the run game.
Austin.
Austin Eckler's a start for me. I think he's going to lead back here. I think he's going to get a lot of third down reps as well. He's a very good third down back. And the Giants, I don't think have a competent offense at all this year. I'm really down on them. But this defensive front might be the best in all of football. It has the potential to be the best defensive front in all of football. And they're going to want somebody who's comfortable picking up blitzes and that kind of thing. So I think Austin Eckler is going to be back there a lot. And I think it's going to be, RB2 numbers for him, I think.
Austin, I'm step for step with you. And Parker, I feel you because on the year, I do feel sit the room. This particular game, this Giants front line and including the linebackers is vicious. And I really think I've already told the Commanders on another show we do, get the ball out early. Do not let Jaden Daniels sit here week 1 and get crushed trying to throw football 30, 40 yards downfield. No better way to do that than toss it to Austin Eckler, who loves to catch passes out of the backfield. In addition, Austin, you mentioned picking up the blitzes. So I think Eckler for me is a start, but on the year, I wouldn't put a whole lot of faith in this running back room to produce a lot for you. But I do like it here in week number. Let's move on to some receivers here. Let's start with the team that everybody cares about. That's the New Orleans Saints, of course, because why not? But more specifically, we had one guy we wanted to mention. Sorry, I'm scrolling over. Rashid Shaheed is one guy that we tossed about here in pre-production. You got Chris Olave on the team. Obviously, the quarterback room is a bit in flux, to say the least. One of maybe the worst quarterback room in football. Parker, let's start it off with you here. Rashid Shaheed specifically, but the room in general.
So I'm a big Rashid Shaheed guy in general, usually because Chris Olave is one hit away from having his ninth concussion in the NFL, and Rashid Shaheed just gets all the volume, and that can happen any given play. But again, like Rashid Shaheed's very shifty, very big trick play guy. So he's very big player bust kind of player, but he makes them often. Now, I hate the quarterback situation, and this week and first 2 weeks he may be a flex start on the fence kind of guy for me, but he is one of the guys that's on my personal watch list as far as does he progress to get most of the looks out of Spencer Rattler going through the season over Chris Olave.
Awesome.
I think he's a sit for me. I don't feel comfortable right now with. I think Spencer Rattler has been announced as the starting quarterback, right? So He's a guy who I don't really trust to throw a good deep ball. That was something in my scouting stuff of his. I noted like I don't like his deep ball. I don't think he throws a pretty deep ball. So that's like Rashid Shaheed's bread and butter as well. And I don't really love the matchup against the Cardinals either, with some pretty good safeties. So it's a sit for me.
All right, we're moving on fast here. Some of these we will sit on for a little bit of conversation, but the Saints is not one of them. I just don't think there's a whole lot of people clamoring for that one. San Francisco 49ers receiver room, but we're also going to touch on the McCaffrey thing too here. Um, I'm really worried about this. Not worried. I'm interested in this receiver room. So people out there, if you've got one of the 49ers receivers, listen up. There's Ricky Pearsall. Ayuk, I believe, is injured. Last night, I think that's the case for a few weeks. They brought in Brian Robinson for the running back carries, and then who am I missing here on the receiver? Juwan Jennings, of course. So Austin, I'll start with you here. San Francisco tends to spread it around. Is there a guy this week worth actually starting out of this group that we're talking about here?
Well, I think first we need to talk about Christian McCaffrey, who is potentially, dealing with a calf injury. He's a start, absolutely. If he's playing, he's a start. If he is not playing, I think these receivers are starts. If McCaffrey is healthy, I think Pearsall is startable. I'm just not a Juwan Jennings guy in general. You're not going to hear me get hype about Juwan Jennings at all. I am a Pearsall guy, and I think Pearsall is the best receiver right here with Ayuk out. So I would start Pearsall. I would start Juwan Jennings if he is healthy and if McCaffrey's out. I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and we would be more clear on this. That's a great position, Austin. We would be more clear on this, but the latest is that McCaffrey is questionable. So, what does that mean? He starts and then sits halfway through because it's tight, or, he plays the whole game and he's killing it. Parker, your thoughts here on the 49ers receiving room, running back room?
So I'll start with the Christian McCaffrey thing. Yes, he's a start. If he's healthy, 100% start. But if you remember what happened last year, week one, I think they played Monday Night Football to start off the year, and Christian McCaffrey came Monday morning and said, "I'm not playing," and that really made a lot of people lose faith in Christian McCaffrey because all their running backs that they put on their bench for Sunday had already played. So it was just it was terrible. But Christian McCaffrey is obviously a start if he's healthy. The wide receiver room, uh, it's a tough one. Brock Purdy's definitely going to throw the football. George Kittle is the thing that makes me think that these wide receivers might not get a lot of action. Like George Kittle is going to be the backbone of Brock Purdy's pass game, and McCaffrey as well out of the backfield. Like a lot of the get it out quick type offense if he doesn't have a lot of faith in these receivers. So I'm on a sit with Jawan Jennings. I'm on a flex start with Ricky Pearsall because I do have faith that he has good hands. He's going to make a couple plays for Brock.
I want to settle here for just a second on the 49ers. I'm going to ask y'all about Brandon Ayuk and later in the season. I didn't prep y'all for this, so full disclosure to the audience, we did not deep dive this, but just general feeling. When you know a guy's going to be out of weeks, in a lot of cases, there's even more rust time after that. So sometimes you're 8-9 weeks in. But with Ayuk specifically, I'll start with you, Austin. Do you feel like keeping him, or what's the barometer you would use for keeping him versus, man, I've got this, I'm not in a super deep league. There's other players viable here that I could pull in.
Well, first thing I would say, if you don't have IR spots in your league, change that. IR spots is crucial. You should be able to stash players who are hurt. But if you don't, for some reason, I think he is worth holding on to, so long as it's deep enough benches and you have the ability to do that. But Ayuk is an exceptional talent, and like I said, I'm not a Juwan Jennings guy, so I'm not worried about Juwan Jennings breakout, like kind of taking over Ayuk's job and all that kind of stuff. And I know Ayuk had a down year last year, but we've seen the connection Purdy and Ayuk have when they're both kind of clicking. So I feel really comfortable with Ayuk playing, starting him once he's back from injury. So if you have an IR spot, absolutely. If you don't, probably, as so long as you can afford it.
Parker.
See, I'm on the opposite side of that. This is not a Rasheed Rice situation. So he's gonna come back week 6 is what they're predicting. So let's say week 7 at worst case scenario, right?
6-7.
It,
Sorry, I had to.
so yeah, so let's say he comes back around that time. This isn't a Rasheed Rice situation where he's just suspended and he's not coming off any injury and he's gonna come back fully rested, ready to go. Like, who's to say that one of these wide receivers don't, you know, stick their foot in the ground and become a real option of this offense to where Brandon Ayuk comes in and maybe messes a few things up. Like, it's kind of scary when a guy comes in halfway through the season and you have a team like the Niners who really have to catch a groove early and figure it out. So for me, if you don't have a IR, it's not a hold for me. He's not a go get him kind of guy.
Yeah, that's a huge part of it. Do you have the IR spots? It's a sticky situation because what a lot of us run into, not week 1, right? But when you start to get week 4 and 5, you start to have several guys who are injured and you just run out of spots. You're like, dang it, I got to make a decision with somebody. So my two things is that I always watch for is number one, is somebody else on the team catching fire, right? Has Ricky Pearsall all of a sudden become Purdy's favorite so that even when Ayuk comes back, Pearsall's still going to get a good target share. The other thing I look for is, yeah, it's supposed to be week 7, but if week 6 or 7, but if we're at week 4 or 5 and they push it out another week, then I'm starting to get out, right? Because I'm like, dang it, now that he's not quite on that path to recovery that we all thought he was on, they're starting to push that out. So let me just get off and grab another guy while I can. So it's not easy, but it is something to keep an eye on. I would keep him as long as I could, though. I do think that he is worth it. Let's move to another receiver room here, the Green Bay Packers. All right. So speaking of crowded, they've got Matthew Golden, of course, who they picked up from Texas, the speed guy. Romeo Dobbs also there. Christian Watson also there. Jaden Reed also there. Dontavia Wicks also there. And oh, by the way, they ran the ball a whole heck of a lot last year. So that comes into play here as well. But it's week 1. So, Austin, I'm going to start with you. What's your feeling here on anybody here out of this whole group?
Well, it's a rough game 1 against the Lions, so I think this is going to be a really tight game, and Jaden Reed's dealing with I believe a fracture in his foot that he's trying to play through right now. It was something that they, I think, wanted to have a procedure done, but that would take him out for most, if not all, of the season. So he's playing through an injury right now. I don't feel comfortable starting him, not knowing what he's going to look like playing with this injury. He's a very dynamic runner, and I think this injury really could take away some of that. So I don't feel good about that. Matthew Golden, I think, is a start for me, just because I just don't trust Jaden Reed, and I don't feel good about any of the other guys, and they spent a first-round pick on Golden, so I think he's going to get looks, and this is going to be a game where they're going to have to throw the ball, so Golden's the only start for me out of this group.
Parker?
Yeah, I agree. I'm right there with Freed. Like, I think Golden is the only start out of this group just because, they went out and spent the 12th overall pick, or I'm sorry, was it 11th overall pick? Either way, it was first round pick. They went and spent to go get Matthew Golden, and he's gonna be worth it. They're gonna get their money's worth out of him, and I think he's gonna get the targets in week 1.
All right, you heard it here first. Matthew Golden from the Packers. We're going to touch on him later again. We got a couple of matchups for y'all. Start sit versus, one-on-one matchups. Pick a guy. So we'll come back to that a little bit later in the show. Let's go quickly to the Raiders. A couple of guys we're talking about there. The Jacoby thing is floating around. Of course, it's an all-new setup here with the Raiders offense. You got a lot going on. Dante Thornton coming in, the rookie from Tennessee. Who else have I got here on the wide receiver thing? The other rookie, yes, Beck from Texas Tech, not TCU. And then there's the whole tight ends thing. We know Brock Bowers is going to get a lot here. So how much is left for the wide receivers? Parker, I'll start with you. Geno Smith playing quarterback. Pete Carroll back for his first showtime here with the Raiders.
Yeah, my biggest on the fence player is the Jacoby Myers thing, like coming out and saying he doesn't really want to be there. It's like so coincidental. Amari Cooper shows up for 2 days and then like pieces out. And I don't know if Jacoby Myers is like cool with it now because Amari's leaving, and maybe he thought Amari Cooper was gonna like threaten his wide receiver 1 job or something over there. But yeah, I mean, Brock Bowers obviously going to get a lot of looks. They're going to let Geno air it out a little bit. Geno is, a veteran. He missed a lot of part of his career sitting on the bench. He's a he's a decent and he gets stuff done. He did well in Seattle when he had weapons. So Jacoby Myers is a big player I'm on the fence for. He's gonna be a flex for me start uh, with like an asterisk next to it, as if like you have to have a pretty weak wide receiver room for that to happen. But I think he could be productive.
Austin.
So here's my thing. Christian Gonzalez is out for the Patriots. And Gonzo being out really is going to open up some play for these receivers because he's really talented, and not having him is very helpful. I do not know which one of these guys to start, though. That's the problem. I haven't heard too many great things about Besh so far, but he's someone who I was pretty okay with in the, draft process. I kind of liked him. Thornton is a guy who has incredible speed and size. You just got to worry about, the route running technique and the deep ball tracking in the hands, but he is a guy who absolutely could hit a home run. And I know it's early, but if you're someone who drafted like like Jaden Reed, who might be out and you don't want to start him, or you also grabbed, one of the guys who were suspended, like Addison or Rashee Rice, and I gotta play somebody. I don't hate Dante Thornton just throwing him out there and just hoping for the touchdown, because a 60-yard touchdown's in the cards for him. He's like the Rashid Shaheed we saw last year, where he was just catching touchdown after touchdown that was like 60, 70 yards. I think Thornton's this year's version of that. And you can bank on it with hopefully some reliability, I think, early. We'll see. We genuinely don't know what this receiver group's going to end up panning out as. So week one, we don't know. I'd be willing to take the shot on Thornton.
Yeah, if I'm a little desperate in the wide receiver room, and again, all our fantasy teams are built differently, right? But you expect the Raiders to run the football, and you expect Bowers to get his touches, but then one shot deep is all you need. You've got your touchdown, so do not be surprised. You see that happen. All right, I do want to mention just really quick here from both of you. I believe both of these are starts, but the rookie here for the Raiders, Ashton Jonty,
Yep.
and then Travis Hunter, just big names. But just again to give, because listen, it's week one and it's panic time, and we want to reassure everybody to believe what your instincts are telling you. So for the folks who did already start these guys, Austin, real quick here, and then I'll kick it to Parker. Those two players.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're, going and drafting somebody that early in your fantasy drafts, start them. Otherwise, it feels like a bit of a waste. Now, I'm going to tell you to stop doing that after week 2. But for the first 2 weeks of the year, start the people that you drafted high, because that's what they were up there for. And, you don't want to bench them when you spent that draft capital on them. So if you draft them early, just don't really even think about it as long as they're healthy.
Parker.
Yeah, I mean, that was the first thing I said when I started the show. Like, trust your draft. If you're drafting guys in the second, third, fifth, whatever, in the top 6 rounds, start those guys. Like, those are the people that you're paying premiums for. Those are the guys that you're paying for a starting spot. So, start them. The only thing I will add is, like, if you're in a league and you have Travis Hunter, Austin, I think you saw this, but Sleeper tweeted and said, "Hey, we have the option to give IDP touchdowns to Travis Hunter because they are not defaulted to him." That being said, I would go make a case to your commissioner if you own Travis Hunter to say, hey, if he gets a pick 6, can I have 6 points? Because that makes him even more valuable in your starting lineup.
All right, let's move on to Colts here. Specifically, I want to know about Tyler Warren, but feel free to mention anybody here because the quarterback room is way down and the wide receiver room is crowded. So let's talk about Tyler Warren specifically. Parker, you first, and then anything else you want to touch on with that Colts offense.
I mean, Tyler Warren is a a rookie tight end. Looks like a game breaker type guy when it comes to this game. Now, Daniel Jones being the starter, I don't absolutely hate it. Like, I think this is much better than having Anthony Richardson out there who can't, hit his targets and, he likes to run the ball a lot. Like, I think Daniel Jones can actually put something together and make Tyler Warren valuable as long as he's in the game plan. Now, he is a rookie. So obviously you're going to start him if you drafted him, but he is a rookie. And, I wouldn't sell out on a guy like that so soon. If he's not producing, double digits in the first 2 weeks, like, keep your faith in a guy like Tyler Warren. They're gonna find a way to use him because he is that type of player that can just bust a game wide open.
Austin.
I mean, I'm not a guy who traditionally loves early rookie tight ends. Tight ends is one of those positions for years and years. It takes a while for them to kind of get adjusted to the league. Now we've seen it more recently, and I think Tyler Warren is one of those guys who could potentially, have one of those big year ones. So I'm a little worried about it, but generally, if you're speaking, if you have Tyler Warren, he's probably the best tight end on your roster. So I think go ahead and start him unless you drafted two guys like similar rounds, then maybe you'd lean the other way. Um, at the receiver position here, it's a crowded room, a lot of talent. AD Mitchell is not someone I would start, though. I wouldn't start Alec Pierce either. Those are two of the guys I would just completely avoid until we see one of them break out. Josh Downs is a start for me, though. He's going to catch a lot of passes probably and play in the slot. He's coming off a hamstring injury. I don't expect him to be limited, though. He logged a full practice this week, so I feel good about Downs. And Pittman, I used to really like Michael Pittman. I'm a little bit out on him now. I would start Downs over Pittman, but I don't think it's, if you have to throw Pittman in your flex, I would feel fine with that.
Yeah, I don't know about week one specifically, but just for the course of the season, until that quarterback room shows it can consistently work downfield consistently, don't be surprised that both Downs and the rookie tight end Tyler Warren that we just talked about. That's a lot of quarterback friendly short type stuff that is available. So don't be surprised if you don't see a lot of catches, even if you're not getting a lot of yards of productions necessarily on the explosive side. I'm going to lead that tight end rookie conversation right into another one, and that's Colston Loveland with the Bears. But we're actually going to sit on this Bears Vikings game and talk about both offenses. All right, we'll get to the Vikings in a second. But specifically, Parker, I'll go with you first here. Colston Loveland on the Bears, hit him first, and then we'll start to expand into the rest of the Bears offense.
I don't love it. I have 0 shares of Colston Loveland this year because one, new offense coordinator, and now I know Ben Johnson did great things with Sam Laporta. That's not my argument here. My argument here is that one, not a big Caleb Williams guy. Two, there are so many targets to throw to. Like people are talking about Romo having to have a break year. Like DJ Moore has to get his share because he gets paid so much money. And they still have Cole Kmet. That's a tight end there. That's kind of been the guy who's he hasn't been great, but he hasn't been terrible. The Bears have just been terrible in general, really. So it's kind of just one of those guys where I'm not a big fan of taking him in this offense specifically.
Austin, Colston Loveland.
Loveland and Warren are the same. Everything I said about Warren, I think, applies to Loveland. Yeah, I really nothing to add there. Just rewind a minute, and listen to what I said there. About the rest of the team, though, I have no clue. I think Caleb Williams is a worthy start. Ben Johnson was one of the few guys who could actually figure out Brian Flores' defense when they were going head to head when Ben Johnson was the OC of the Lions. So I think he kind of has a game plan. He's going to be able to prep Caleb Williams really well, and I like what they did to the offensive line. I love the weapons they added. So Caleb Williams, I think, is someone you can start. I don't think I'm starting either of the running back or any of the running backs just because I don't really like any of them that much, to be honest with you. And I think DJ Moore and Rome Odunze are both people you can start. So that's where I'm at on the Bears.
So I love DJ Moore. I think he's going to rack up all year. Now, Parker, I'll come to you for the Caleb Williams thing again. I want to know about Roma Dunze, who didn't look good last year. Does that change this year? And then I'll also toss in Luther Burden. Okay, so those three guys: Caleb Williams, Luther Burden, Roma Dunze.
So, man, if you guys, if you're on the Box Score Network YouTube and you keep up with what we do and you've heard the Two Ps on a Pod podcast, you know exactly how I feel about Caleb Williams. I have just been down on that man since the day he got drafted. So that being said, like I just think that guy folds under pressure. He panics. He make his favorite now athleticism amazing, but like it's kind of one of those situations where he can't control his athleticism right. in my opinion. So that being said, Romo Dunze, Luther Burden, I can't have faith in those guys if I don't have faith in the guy throwing him the football. So I think the Bears did a good job finding weapons. I think they just, in my opinion, they have the wrong guy under center.
And I'll add to the watch list there, Parker, for the rest of the season. Just keep an eye on Colston Loveland and Luther Burden because somebody in Ben Johnson's offense is going to be producing at a high level. I feel like DJ Moore for sure, but who's going to kind of be the second guy under that? Is that going to go back to the running backs again like it was in Detroit, or is it going to be more of a second target here? So just keep an eye on that as we move forward. Let's roll over to the Viking side of things here. All right. I'm going to let you guys roll anywhere you want to, but I'll set the table here. Austin first. We got JJ McCarthy playing quarterback. Yes, our resident Vikings fan. By the way, my son is also a Vikings fan now, mainly because he loves Justin Jeff. But we're going to be watching the Vikings game together on Monday night. The receiving room, a lot of things going on there in the receiving room. And then, are they going to run the football this year? Are they actually really legitimately going to run the football this year? Is a worthy question. So, Austin, I'll let you start there on the Vikings side of things.
Well, let's start at quarterback because that's the most important piece. And JJ McCarthy is a sit for me. We don't know what this offense is going to look like. He's making his first career start in the NFL. It's a divisional game against the Bears. It is an absolute sit for me. I hope it works out. If it was a home game in Minnesota, I'd feel a little bit better, but it's in Chicago, so it's just a hard sit for me for JJ McCarthy. That is the other JJ, Justin Jefferson, is absolutely a start, no question there. Don't even need to mention it. I think when you get really in the weeds, though, here is with Adam Thielen, who just rejoined the Vikings, so he's familiar with Kevin O'Connell's familiar with him. But JJ McCarthy isn't. And that sort of chemistry has not been built up. So I don't feel good enough starting Adam Thielen week 1 because of that. And with Jordan Addison on the suspended list and missing the first few games being suspended, I think, TJ Hawkinson's in for a big game. So he's someone I'm absolutely starting. If you drafted him, though, you are starting him. He's someone you got early. Jalen Naylor is probably a fringe flex, sort of that Dante Thornton type guy who I talked about with the Raiders. Like, he just might go long for a long touchdown. We've seen him step up in the past with injuries in Minnesota, so I feel decent with that. And then the running backs, I do think we're going to see them try to establish the run, but a lot of people are really high on Jordan Mason right now. I think he's going to get work, but this is Aaron Jones' backfield still. I think Aaron Jones is an absolute must start. I think he's going to get a lot of work.
Very good. Parker, the Vikings offense. Go anywhere you want to on that, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start with JJ McCarthy as Austin did. Like, he's a sit for me too. But I mean, we've all had the conversations this all season. Like, this dude's walking into a fully furnished house. Like, everything's set in place. He just has to do just what Sam Darnold did. Just walk in there, do your job, and you'll win 12 games plus. So that being said, pray that happens. But you can't start McCarthy week 1. There's plenty of other quarterbacks out there. If you have McCarthy, you likely have a second option as well on your roster to start. Number 2, you already said it, Justin Jefferson, solidified start. I was hoping I was hoping you honestly forgot about Hawkinson because I was about to say big Hawk game this week. Like, I think that this is prime time, just kind of like what Ben was saying. TJ Hawkinson's going to be very available for McCarthy quick. Just a quick first look or maybe late reads, just a guy to dump it off to. I think TJ Hawkinson's going to get a lot of action. And I would stay away from the Thielen Naylor thing for now. I would give it a week. Obviously, when Addison comes back, what is it, week 4? He comes back.
Yeah, week 5, I think.
When that happens, he's a start as well. Addison's going to be the solidified wide receiver 2 in this room. But until then, I would give it a 1-week breather and see if Thielen's comfortable right away, or see if they're just sticking Naylor out there and Thielen's kind of like a third relief kind of guy.
Very good on the Vikings. That's really good coverage. We've got 2 matchups here, but a couple of quick notes I want to do for the audience quickly. A couple of Twitter handles, X handles. Mine is at BenPark79. If you have start-sit questions and you want us to talk about on next week's show, then once you get started Wednesday, Thursday, and you got questions, send them to me at BenPark79, or you can do at BScore Network. I believe that's the right Twitter X handle, at BScore Network. Austin Parker at the end of the show if you want to give out your handles as well. But hit up any of us. Start to see it. We'll cover them. We'll be glad to cover them on next episode. And then the other thing is, we've covered maybe 50, 60 guys here tonight. Okay, so before you finalize something based on something we said, go back and check the injury report. They change, all right? They change sometimes hourly. So go back and check. You know, we may have mentioned starting a guy who's actually flipped by Sunday morning on the injury list, okay? So do your homework on the injury thing. Always go back and do a final check here because there's just no way we can catch everybody, every single injury as they're getting updated. All right, I got two matchups, 1-versus-1 here that I want to mention to you guys, and we'll see what you got here. R.J. Harvey, we already mentioned him, the rookie for Denver, versus Austin Eckler, the veteran for the Commanders. Austin, I'll let you go first here. If you could only start one, which guy would you go? R.J. Harvey versus Austin Eckler.
These are two guys I feel pretty similar about. I would lean R.J. Harvey. I think there's more likely a touchdown in the deck of cards for Harvey.
Parker.
Yeah, I'm in the boat. I think R. Harvey is the better start because I mean you gotta look at the defense they're playing too. Like Austin Eckler's going up against one of the best defensive fronts, and RJ Harvey gets to run against Tennessee, who teams have not had an issue doing for the last three seasons. So RJ Harvey's my easy start there between the two.
And I was going to pick Austin Eckler, but you guys really mentioned that defense there that he's going up against. That not the Eckler, but that Harvey's going up against. It's a great point. Being the veteran, maybe catching touchdown. I still like Eckler, but that's very close. And the last one is that I've got here: rookies, wide receivers. Matthew Golden versus Alec Ayumanor. I think I know where you guys will go, but run us through it. Parker, which rookie wide receiver, Matthew Golden or Alec Ayumanor?
Kind of same situation with the running backs. Like I'm gonna take Matthew Golden because they're playing Denver's defense. Like it's kind of like the same thing. I think the matchup there is just much more in favor for Matthew Golden with a certified quarterback with a offense on them, a great head coach and Matt LaFleur and great play caller. So, I think Matthew Golden's the start there for me.
I don't love Golden's matchup going against the Lions though, but we don't know what the Lions defense necessarily is going to look like. Although they were very good last year and they have some talent back there in the DB room, but it is a slight lean to Golden for me as well.
All right, there it is, Matthew Golden. That is all I've got. I'm going to toss it back to each of these guys for final notes here before we shut the show down. Parker, you first. Any final advice, or hey, reach back and mention the guy that we already talked about and meant something?
My last thing, I guess the only advice I have is something that Ben mentioned. Like, don't watch this video in week 3 and think we're helping you. Like, half of these things we just went over are not going to be valid, and
Right.
just make sure you're keeping up with the episodes if this is something we're going to do on a weekly basis, and give you guys reviews and upcomings and watch lists and this, that, and the other starts. And please, that's like the only advice I have if you're going to watch this series on our YouTube channel. Other than that, stick to your guns. Good luck to you this season. It's not going to get any easier than it is right this second. So good luck.
Austin?
Another just general piece of fantasy football advice that popped into my head throughout the show is look at the time and days that these games are happening and make your lineup accordingly. You want someone who is going to be in your flex to play as late as possible. So, like if you've got someone in this Vikings Bears game, and like Justin Jefferson, he's someone who, if you're going to start 3 receivers, put Jefferson in your flex. That way, if anything were to happen, that is at the last point, and you can flex somebody else in and have the option to do a running back, and there's room there. So that, and same thing with like the Thursday night games. Don't have a Thursday night player in your flex. That's more important than having a Monday night person in there. Do not have a Thursday night person playing in your flex, just because injuries and things like that happen. So yeah, that's just my last piece of fantasy advice for all you listening week 1.
That's it. Everybody, we really hope you enjoy week one. Whether your fantasy team wins or loses, whether your real team wins or loses, please enjoy all the football and soak it all in. I hope you have a great weekend. We will be back next week. Excellent work, Austin. Excellent work, Parker. Have a great one. This is the Box Score Network. Goodbye.